Greg Olsen is ready. The Seattle Seahawks. Man, it sounds strange to say that. The Seattle Seahawks tight end, former Panthers tight end, originally drafted by the Bears, joining us on the program. You know, when I saw the news, Greg, I was wondering, is this to play for a championship again, to get back to a Super Bowl, or is this just playing another season?
You know, I think you always want to put yourself in the best position to, play meaningful games and contend and compete. But, I think it's so hard. If you set out every year and you just tried to pick a team solely based on winning the Super Bowl, I mean, it'd be like winning the lottery. There's so many factors. So many teams before the season look great. So many teams every year kind of surprise you. I was looking for consistency. What teams have played at a high level for a long time, and Seattle's at the top of that list with only a handful of other teams, and the fact that they were as interested as they were, combined with all those other factors I mentioned, it gives you a chance. How the season goes, time will tell. But you're always going to be in the mix with a guy like Russell and a system and an organization like that, and that was appealing to me.
Do you call Russell Wilson, or do you wait for him to call you?
We've talked quite a bit. We connected shortly after Panthers notified me of my release the week of the Super Bowl and got together and spent some time. And he's been awesome. We've had really good dialogue through this whole process. We've talked about where to send kids to school, and we've talked about, different thoughts of offense and different thoughts of how they've used the tight end in the past and some things that I've had success with that maybe they haven't implemented. So we've covered a lot of ground, and he's super impressive. He's super engaged. He operates pretty much everything he does at a really high level, and it's been fun to, really get to know him through this process.
How scary is retirement?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm probably not far off. But, I think the unknown and giving up on what you've done your whole life, I think is scary. But I also think, when that time comes, I'm going to be ready for it. I wasn't sure what this year was going to bring, and if the opportunities weren't out there, I was going to be very content moving on. But I still wanted to play. I still knew I could play. But it's definitely a transition that a lot of guys face, and it's inevitable. And I'll let you know when I get there.
How did the fans in Seattle treat you the number of times? I think you might have played there 5 times, maybe 6 times. How did they treat you?
Not great. Not great. Their fan base is awesome. I mean, they are loud. They are energetic. It's, arguably the best home environment, in the entire league. We played playoff games up there. We played a lot of great regular season games there. In 15, we had like an all-time classic game. It's a unique and really special fan base and stadium and environment, and I'm just hopefully that I can do some things that now they'll be cheering for me instead of making my life miserable on the other side.
He's the Seahawks tight end, Greg Olsen, joining us on the program. What are you going to do with all your Carolina gear?
I guess I could follow Ron's kind of
yard sale.
But and I told the kids we're still Charlotte people. We're going to live here in town. When my career is done at some point, we'll be Panther fans. We'll go to games. We'll support the team. We still obviously have our roots. The kids have lived almost their whole lives here in Charlotte. So, we'll never lose that. This is not like we're going to disappear off the face of the earth and never come back. We're Charlotte, Carolina people. We've loved raising our kids here. We've loved growing up here and building our family. So we're not going to cheer for them too much this year, but I got some really good buddies on the team that obviously I want them to do well. But, we're all in on Seattle right now, and, we're going to give them everything we have to try to be the best asset we can to that entire organization and see what it brings us.
What's going on with the Carolina Panthers? We had Christian McCaffrey on at the Super Bowl, and I said, are you rebuilding? And he said, yes.
Yeah, I think that's where all the signs are pointing. Obviously nobody's going to come right out and say that. That's kind of the taboo word of that world. But, I think they're fortunate. They do have a lot of good players still. Guys like Christian, obviously. We'll see what happens with Cam. If they bring him back, they'll always have a chance. But
if I said, let me hear from analyst Greg Olsen, not former player, what do you think Carolina should do at the quarterbacking position?
It depends. If they want to win, I think it really comes down to, is the organization content on not winning this year to improve draft capital, future draft picks? If you don't want to win, then you don't bring Cam Newton back. If you want to win and you want to compete from day one, then you bring Cam Newton back. So I think it's a super easy decision once they make once their philosophy and their approach is settled. And I don't know whether that has been or not, but once that is, I think then the decision with Cam really just marries up with whichever path the organization wants to take for the 2020 season.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I feel the same way. Just because they came out and said, we want him back, I don't think Cam's going to be the starting quarterback for Carolina when this season starts. You're gone. Luke Kuechly retires. Cam, we're not sure about. New coach, new offensive coordinator, new owner in there. Just feels like time for sweeping changes. And McCaffrey, you're not going to get rid of. So you kind of build around him. But I just can't see Cam as the starting quarterback.
Yeah, which is unfortunate. But as I kind of alluded to at the end of the season, and I kind of saw the writing on the wall as it pertained to me, sometimes change just leads to more change. And it doesn't mean it's good or bad. It is, and if they're gonna start fresh on all those other things, maybe they decide that it's time to start fresh on everything. But again, we won't know until that decision is made, and I don't know when that. I've kind of obviously lost a lot of insight, and a lot of the people that we had kind of grown with that organization through the last 9 years have kind of moved on to other places. So I wish those guys nothing but great success. I have a lot of respect for Matt Rule. I had a chance to spend a lot of time with him over the last, his first couple weeks on the job, and was really impressed with his vision and his expertise in building things and whatnot. So I think those guys will figure it out. I don't know if anybody understands right now the timetable that they're operating on.
A number of high-profile players like J.J. Watt, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson are in no rush to sign this new CBA. What's the big concern?
It's a good question. I think what happens a lot of times is, guys see it through the lens of how it affects them, and I think that's human nature, and I don't blame anybody. Guys that are at the later stage in their career, post-retirement benefits and, what it means for me in my post-playing days, that's a huge factor. If I'm a young guy in my first year or two and I'm kind of on the fence, I'm a borderline roster guy, I'm trying to make as much as I can in the shortest period of time that I can, because I don't know how long my career is going to be. And then there's all these guys kind of in the middle that are kind of in flux. They're just kind of in the meat of their careers, and they're kind of being pulled in each direction. So I think anytime you're trying to find a deal that works for 1,200 guys that are all different situations and different economics and priorities, it's hard for 1,200 to negotiate against 31, and it's just a tough situation. I remember going through it back in 2011. I'm one of the few guys that went through the last CBA, and now is obviously still playing for this CBA. And we went through a lot of these same arguments, this same back and forth in 2011, and we find ourselves 9 years later kind of doing it all again.
I'll leave you with this. When you get to Seattle, I got one tip for you.
All right.
Don't take your shirt off around DK Metcalf.
No, that's not going to happen. I'm standing as far away from him. But you want to hear a funny story, Dan? I actually played in Chicago with DK Metcalf's father. So that's how old I am,
wow.
/ how young he is. So this will be the first time in my career that I will play with a father and son. His father was Terrence Metcalf. He was one of our offensive linemen in Chicago my first year or so up there. And here I am all these years later playing with his kid.
Hey, congratulations. Good luck with that move there, and we'll keep in touch. Thank you, Greg.
All right. Thanks.
Greg Olsen now with the Seattle Seahawks.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune into Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV. Stream for free on BR Live or download the Dan Patrick Show app.